Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. I try and do a chat video every Sunday. Flies, it's really bad at the moment. Try and do a chat video every Sunday, a bit of a catch-up, update on the garden, the homestead and things like that. It is 37 degrees out here at the moment, so I'm not going to do too much in the way of wandering around showing you too much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick look at, I wanted to show you the watermelon. So if you've been following along at all, we had a mystery plant that came up in the garden. We identified it as watermelon and it's taken off. It's one of the only things in my entire garden that's taken off, and it is going really well. And I just wanted to show you from week to week this watermelon that is going really well. So I'm going to show you that. And then I'm going to go wander over under the solar array where I normally go to have a chat to you about some different things. So I've seen lots of videos up about homestead goals and things like that. So I thought I'd sit down and have a chat about what our homestead goals for the year are and the hopes of what will go personal, business, homestead, all that sort of stuff. So I've got some notes as well because I decided I was going to write them down and try and figure it out. I haven't prioritized anything yet, but I'm going to have a chat about it. So let me show you the watermelon first, just because it's kind of just really neat at how big the watermelons get from week to week. So I've only got one fruit on here at the moment, I think. I have been trying to hand pollinate any that I have seen, but I haven't seen any more come up so far. So other than this one that looks really good. So let me turn you around. So check that out. Lovely big watermelon sitting there. It's got a little bit of strain on the stalk there, but it should be fine. Let me see if I can take some of that pressure off. I might spin it this way. There we go. That might be a bit better. And I probably had the camera in the wrong spot while I was concentrating on doing that, so that's fine. But we do have, there is a few more, like there's a little one there, if we can get this to focus. Mind you, it's climbing up the trellis yet again, and these watermelons look like they'll be too big to go on a trellis, so I'm going to have to detangle that and pull it down and pollinate that one. So I might come out here when it's a bit cooler and do that. I do have my first dahlia blooming as well, so that's really neat considering that I had so many it's not focusing because of that grid behind me, I think. But considering I had so much trouble with my dahlias, and they were in pots for too long, and then when they got planted out, some of them didn't make it. We've got new growth on ones that didn't make it though, but some of them have toppled over, and I don't know, it'll probably come back heaps better next year once all these bulbs are established and stuff. This bed needs mulching too, but I'm going to get a few, and that's the main thing. There's one budding up there as well, so it's still nice that I'm getting some of them at least. Now I've managed to rig the camera up on a fence post here so that it's I'm not having to hold it, because quite often when I stand on here and under here and hold it, there's so much movement in it because I just get tired after holding it for a while. So I've got it propped up on a post, and unless it falls over, then that's going to be beneficial. It also is a little bit further away from the inverter, so anyone who's watched before, this is our secondary solar array, there is an inverter and battery bank underneath this setup, and it's out in the garden, and this runs the fans on the patio, my Thermomix, any heating mats for the seeds, and the grey water pump and things like that. So it has a fan built into the inverter, and when it's really hot, the fan kicks in and out because that's what it's supposed to do. So under here you get the fan noise as well. So anyway, now I've been watching a lot of videos lately with the whole homesteading goals 2023, and we all know that these sort of things are a little bit harder for me to verbalize and share, because I find it hard to it's not about comparing, it's more about that it hardly even feels like we have a homestead half the time, and I know we do, but we're in Australia for a start, and it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things. But we do need to set some goals for 2023, not necessarily that we have to live up to, and not necessarily like what are they called when you have the new year resolutions or anything like that. Not about that, but more about what I'd hope to achieve this year, what I hope to accomplish or finish or achieve or whatever else in this year. And if I get a list of it, then maybe I'll be able to prioritize what gets done and things like that. I don't know. We'll see. So I did some notes up because I decided to sit down and work it out. And I split them up into categories. And I think that's a good way to look at it. Some of these videos too were talking about how you achieve your goals, how you set your goals, how you determine the goals. I'm not going to tell you any of that because it's not my forte. I very much feel like I am a beginner in a lot of these things. About the only thing that I feel like I have enough knowledge to teach or share is cooking. And even then, I still screw up a lot. So this is definitely not a how-to. This is definitely just a sharing what I'm trying to achieve. And by verbalizing it to you guys, it gives me something to look back on, something to work for, and a sort of an accountability partner. Basically, you guys are going to be my accountability partners. You guys are going to be, I've sat here and said I'm going to do this and this year, and I'm going to feel like, not that I have to do it, but that I should give it a really good go to do it because I said I was going to do it. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But so this is definitely not about a how to, but what I did was I had my notebook, and all I did was I broke down the goals into sort of homestead, personal, business, current projects versus ones that are yet to be started and things like that. I haven't prioritized them yet, and that's something that I need to work on next. I need to work on figuring out which ones are the most important tasks to complete first versus the ones that if we don't get to, we don't get to, sort of thing. So in regards to the homestead, a lot of my goals for this year are to finish things that we've started. So there is a lot of things that we have started and either have had to stop because it wasn't working and we haven't gone back to and completed yet, or things that we've bought the supplies for and then never actually followed through on doing it, which is something that really bugs me because that's money spent that we haven't followed through on a purpose for. And it's partly why the place looks the way it does half the time, is because I might purchase something that I find really cheap or really suitable for a purpose, and we buy it and then we put it somewhere neat in a pile, but we don't get to it. And those piles end up accumulating more piles and more piles. And they look a lot less neat once you've got half a dozen piles of stuff. And it's all useful stuff. And that's part of a homestead too, is accumulating stuff, because you can find a purpose for most things, but you have to find the time to find that purpose too. And when we first moved in, so we've been here for about 4.5 years now, a lot of the stuff we did just to tide us over. We needed it. It had to be done for us to exist. It had to be done so that the children had what they needed. It had to be done so that it was safe, things like that. And now we're trying to turn some of that stuff around to be for a purpose that is long term. So like our bathroom, one of our projects this year is going to be the bathroom. One of the rooms of the donga is turned into a bathroom, and it is fine, except that they're not meant for long-term water usage. The floors are marine ply, the walls are masonite, so they're semi-water resistant, but they're not waterproof. And we've had children from the age of 2 upwards over the last 4.5 years bathing in there, and we put some vinyl down on the ground, but it was only a temporary fix and things like that. So the bathrooms need to be redone. We're going to do them very rustic-like. We've got decking timber, which we've already bought. There's a pile of that sitting there. Decking timber that I got secondhand to use for the floors. We're putting a shower base in to getting rid of the bath now that the kids are older. And we're going to put some just rustic, outdoor-style bush stuff around the shower base, like, just some posts and a bit of metal that covers from shoulder to knee sort of thing, and that sort of thing. Make it very much like an outdoor bathroom, because that's basically what it is. That is one of the big things that we need to do this year, because when we set it up so that it would work. It's really windy. I don't know whether that's going to affect the sound, so I'm just going to pause for a second and wait and see. So the bathroom, when we set it up, was very much temporary. So when we first moved out, we used an ensuite tent. We didn't even have a bathroom set up. We were using one of those ensuite camping tents, and then we turned this room into a bathroom, and it has worked fine, but it's not quite it's not a long-term thing, and it's lasted for 4.5 years, and that is amazing. But we really need to work on it. It's like we have a composting toilet, but we don't have one of the chambers underneath the toilet because the floor isn't high enough for that. So we need to build a slight platform to be able to have a composting unit underneath the toilet as well. So all that sort of thing is on the cards. So projects that we need to finish. Bathroom is a really big one. As we finish the bathroom, the other things that we're looking at doing is the pantry. So I've discussed the pantry before. We're going to extend out the current kitchen with an enclosed pantry section. We're going to buy some metal shed framing basically for that. It's just getting it budgeted in. I've said before, I probably have to borrow money to do it, and that's fine. I will do that and get it sorted, but I don't want to do that until we're positive that we're going to do it, because I don't want it to be another pile of stuff that doesn't get done. But once the pantry has been done, all the food shelves that are up on the top of the house can be moved down and put into the pantry, and that top of that house can be sealed in. So at the moment it's open air, and it's where you walk to get to the bathroom. The idea is that we can close that in and we can extend that space for the kids, because at the moment we live in a very enclosed space, and as the children have gotten older, it has become more and more apparent that we need a little bit more space. So we're going to close in that section there, and that can be turned into the kids' room. But again, it's something that can't, like, the bathroom needs to be done, the pantry needs to be done, and then the top of the house can be done. It's all a bit of a process of getting things done. So we need to prioritize what gets done when and figure out how to get it done. So the top of the house, the bathroom, and the pantry are the three big jobs. We also would like to do an extension on the donga for our bedroom. Darryl and I had always intended to build a bedroom of our own off the side of the dongas, because at the moment we don't have a bedroom. Our bed is in our living space with just some bookcases, and that's something we bought the joists and the feet for it all, but we haven't got any further. Again, it is something that I want done, but it doesn't need to be done right now. It's probably going to be one of the long-term type goals. But that's the sort of construction stuff that needs done. The other thing that we really need to get finished, so one of the highest priority actually is our grey water. So we set up, I showed a while back, and I've taken some footage, and once it's all finished I'll put it together, but we have a pipe that goes from the bathtub and it goes to a secondary bathtub that is dug into the ground, and that bathtub has baffles and gravel in it, and the water runs through the baffles and out the other end of the bathtub, and then it will go to a pump that pumps it to our orchard and stuff. Now, we did have it running at one point, but the pump grey water unit thing that we were using, it wasn't working. It was too small for what we were doing. The filter things were getting clogged up because they were like a foam sort of a filter, and when it's coming from the bathtub you've got the froth from shampoos and stuff, and it was all clogging up the thing. So with the gravel it will clean it better and leave some particles to come through and others won't. We actually have some grasses growing in that gravel as well. We were going to plant something specific, but it looks like something self-seeded in there, and that's working fine, so we'll use that. So that's going to help clean and oxygenate the water as well. So the problem was that the float that we had purchased wasn't working correctly, so I've ordered a new piggyback float for that, and then we need to line the secondary hole, so the water comes out of the filters from the bathtub into the secondary hole. That's going to set the float off. The pump's going to pump the water to the irrigation system. But that hole, we had a container in, but then it rained and that flooded, the container floated and all the rest of it. So we're going to have to line that hole and just use that hole, I think with pond plastic probably, and we'll use that as the main reservoir. So it doesn't generally hold water. It fills up, the pump goes off, the water goes out. The water is held in the bathtub at any point. The only point of time that the water is held stagnant is in the bathtub, but the bathtub has the filter media in it, so that's how that works. So that is going to water the fruit trees, and it normally waters my strawberries and the raspberries and things like that, and because we haven't had that running, half my strawberry bed is dying at the moment because it's just not getting enough water, and my hose doesn't reach that far for me to hand water, and the raspberries have an issue as well, and the fruit trees are struggling a bit because the hoses don't reach that far. So we need to get that done. So I've ordered the float for the piggyback, and hopefully we can get that sorted soon. So that's one of the other big things. I think this video is going to end up far longer than I intended, but I think that even if you guys don't watch it, this is going to be really good for me to use as note form and to look back on. One of the other projects is the old hothouse and then the new one. So we have an old hothouse that we built. We built it out of cypress. It was gorgeous, except that it wasn't practical because we just didn't know enough, basically. The ceiling height was too high, so it didn't hold heat properly. It needed some more, needed double walling, things like that. Anyway, we're going to turn that into sort of a guest quarters type thing. Mum visits a couple of times a year, and so it'd be nice for her to have somewhere to sleep that is a little bit further away from the children. So we started pulling that down and repurposing some of the materials for that because we were turning it into that, but we were supposed to be building a new hothouse as well, and we never got it built. So we ended up with no hothouse at all this year. We did a bunch of temporary stuff. You can look back at videos. Nothing worked. My garden is abysmal this year. Part of it's not having the hothouse. Part of it is just that it's been a really crappy year for the gardens. From everyone's complaining about it. So the old hothouse needs to be turned into the guest house, though that's not a huge priority because Mum will be here in a couple of weeks. We won't have it done by then, and then won't be back for a few months until after that. But we need the new hothouse to be established before the next growing season. So that's a winter project, but that definitely needs to be done. The garden paths are another thing. We bought a whole truckload of wood chips to use for the garden paths. And because the garden has been so bad, I haven't really pushed for it to be done because the garden's overgrown with weeds and stuff because I'm not growing any vegetables, so I'm not spending any time out there. So I haven't pushed for Darryl to help me out with the garden paths and things like that. And the garden and the kitchen stuff's more my domain, and if I don't push for things to be done, they don't get done. So because I haven't nagged, it hasn't been done, and we've got a pile of wood chips that are composting in place instead of working as paths. So that needs to be done. The garden paths need to be done and worked out. We need to get some more fencing sorted, so we're going to fence the back half of the behind the house as well. We only have the front yard fenced at the moment, and it means that anyone who visits has to walk through the front yard to get into the house or the patio and things like that. And the dogs are loud and jumpy and noisy because we never have visitors. We never have anyone here, so they do their job and they look aggressive and they bark and bounce and harass people. So it'd be really nice to be able to put them in the back if I needed to bring anyone in the front, and then once they're in the patio, they're inside a fenced area anyway for that. But also because the chickens are behind the pen. So that was something else that I haven't had a chance to say. We had the baby chickens in a tractor out the back, and we did have them in the front yard with the dogs because the dogs don't worry them, but we ran out of spots to put them on the grass, and it was difficult to get them in and out of there. Like if we had to bring them inside and the dogs were in the yard, there was a bit of a challenge. So we moved the tractor out near the other chicken pens. Eventually it will be inside a fenced area because we're going to make that U. But it wasn't inside any fencing, but it's a very heavy tractor. But we went out the other morning and wild dogs had dug underneath the tractor and had stolen a few chicks. So we've had to move the baby chicks in with the slightly larger chicks. They're not integrating very well, but the pen is large enough that they're basically just sitting in two different flocks, so that's fine. But if we have a back fence, that's going to be closer to the chickens, which is going to allow the dogs to deter anything from trying to get to the chickens. The actual chicken pens, all the roofing irons dug into the ground, they have pavers all the way around. It has fencing all the way up to the roof and netting. Nothing can get into them. It was unfortunate with the tractor, but having the dogs somewhat near them is still beneficial. It's still going to be a deterrent for anything coming near them. So we need to get the back fencing done and the rest of the U shape of the chicken pens done as well, so that that chicken pen is somewhat enclosed, so that if we want to put a tractor or something in the middle of the chicken pens, we can without worrying about anything. So back fence and that. We've been meaning to put a gate on the top of the driveway for like forever. So we're going to plan on doing that shortly as well, so that the kids don't go down the driveway. They can go around it, obviously, but it's a deterrent more than anything, but also so that delivery stuff stops at the gate, which allows us easier to leave our yard too, because as I said, the dogs, that when we do have people drive in, they go rank in the yard. So to be able to leave the yard and walk a distance to a delivery person is beneficial as well. So we'll do that, and we'll probably put a camera there, which means that we can talk through the camera if need be. And then with the chickens and the dogs, we'll probably buy a set of cameras, the solar ones, and we'll put one in the chicken area, so that if we hear any noise at night, we can put one with one of the spotlights too, the movement light, so if anything's moving around, then it can. We also have the zip line set up behind the chicken pens, which is not visible from the house, which is neither here nor there. It's basically in the backyard. But if we put a camera out there, then that way I can glance at it if I hear a kid yell or something too. So, you know, pros and cons for all of that sort of stuff. And we've been going to do it for ages, we just haven't got around to it. There was a brand called Eufy, I think was a brand that I was looking at. I haven't decided yet though. It was just one of those things on the list, and we're talking lists today. So what else was there? Hydroponics for the ducks. I discussed that last time, that I really want to get the IBC in there, reticulated water growing greens for them. Really shouldn't be too big a task, but it's just something else to get done. Need a new seedling staging area, which I'm going to try and set up shortly, because I'm going to try and get a last flush of seedlings to work for this, because we don't get our first frost until May. So we've got 4 or 5 months before our first frost. So it's still plenty of time to grow a lot of things. So I really want to try and get another flush of things growing now. Water is the other thing. So I get asked a lot about our water. So we have a 22,500 litre water tank as our main water tank. We also have a 1,300 litre stock tank, an 800 litre garden tank, and 2 or 3 IBCs, which are 1,000 litres scattered around in various places, with pumps, gravity fed or battery operated pumps to use however we have to use them. Now, most of them have a roof that leads to them, but it only works if we have rain. The rest of the time we collect water. So we have a 1,000 litre IBC that we collect water with. In about 15 minutes away, there's a bore, a community bore. Now people drink it, and that's fine. What you're used to is what you're used to. We use it more for stock water and garden water. I've never had it tested, but most bore water has some heavy metals and stuff in it, and it doesn't smell superb. So we generally use it for stock, gardens, all that sort of thing. And then there is a potable water available in town. So, and we pay, it's about $3 per 1,000 litres. So you buy a tag at the council office, and then you use that to collect water from the standpipe into your 1,000 litre tanks, bring it home. So the theory is every time Darryl goes into town, he just grabs 1,000 litres when we're running low on water, and we do that. So the issue then is that we then pump that water from the back of the trailer into whichever tank, and we have a manifold set up with a filtering system for that. And some of the distances have been an issue. So we're looking at potentially getting like one of those like Bluetti power stations that can be set up on the trailer, so that we can have the tanks, we can have multiple manifolds by using that to power the pump. So the Bluetti and the pump are on the back of the trailer, and you just hook on the correct thing and you're somewhat closer to it to pump it out. I'll talk more about it when we sort it out, but that's something else we need to work on, is the water manifold situation, and maybe looking at a Bluetti or something like that. There's a few things that we're talking about as new projects. I really want to get a solar dehydrator working, but it's still something in progress that I'm sort of working on. I have an electric dehydrator, but it uses really high wattage because it's a heating element. So you're talking 600 watts for anywhere up to 36 hours. Like it's too much for us to handle. If I had a solar system with a decent battery, that was all it ran, but so I'd really like to work out solar dehydrator. So I'm looking at different plans for different ones, and I'm going to construct something at some point, maybe a couple of different types. The other things we're looking at is we were looking at moving the pig pen from the front of the house to the back of the house, out near where the chickens are. That will be a really, really big job when we do it though, so I don't know how feasible that is going to be. We would like to get some gravel for the driveway and the turning circle out the front. We've had issues with bogging in it just recently, but again, it's a fairly high cost item for something that is more aesthetics than anything else. Like, yes, it's important for bogging and stuff, but we've been here for 4.5 years and only ever bogged once. So it's one of those things. So it's something, it's in there, but it's probably not anything real. And the other thing that was new to do with the homestead was more the gardening. So I really need to assess how we're going to do things for the garden for next year, for this year, because last year was a complete and utter failure. So the seedling staging, making sure that we're getting the irrigation working adequately, and the water manifold, that's part of that too. The grey water is part of that too. It's a whole bunch of things that all are going to make a difference into the garden for next year. So hopefully we can get some of that established. In a more personal or business type sense of the things, is that I would like to spend more time on my art. So I'll put a little thumbnail here, but Darryl's a writer, and he does a lot of Dungeons and Dragons type stuff and story writing, and we've been working on a story together, and it's based on dreamscape that Orpheus tells us about, to do with the animals on the property and things like that. And so I have been doing artwork for him on and off while we try and establish it, but most of the thing is that I just don't have a lot of time to spend on it. So I'd really like to purposefully and mindfully spend more time practicing my art and things like that. It is my 40th birthday this year, and so I'm planning on maybe upgrading my iPad as well, because I've got one of the very first gen iPad Pros, so it is older than Kavik, I think, so like 7 years old or something. I think it was a 2015 model, so I'd really like to upgrade that, and then the kids can use the old one. So my 40th is in the middle of the year, so we'll see how we go money wise, but that would be a really nice idea to do for that. And so I just want to mindfully and purposefully spend some more time on my art, some more time on my skills, sketching more, just to, the more you do it, the easier things work with drawing. So I just want to try and figure out timing to allow myself time to do that, and not feel guilty about the fact that other things aren't being done, because that's half the battle, is that I sit down to draw and then I start drawing, but then my mind wanders because I'm feeling guilty about all the things that haven't been done and should have been done, and that sort of thing. Also, personally this year I want to make more of our soaps and laundry detergents and stuff. I have really dropped the ball with that this year. I made like 2 big batches of bar soap, which only lasted us a couple of months, and that was it, and then I've had to buy it since then. I have all the stuff there to make my laundry liquid and everything else. I just haven't got to it, so I really would like to. I'm going to try and stop using the word need. I don't need to. I can purchase soap, I can purchase laundry detergent, that isn't an issue. I would really like to start making more here and have less that needs to be purchased, for knowing what's in it, but also just because it is much easier to stock my pantry from single ingredients. So like food wise, we try and buy a lot of single ingredients to make all sorts of things. Well, the laundry, soap, and that sort of thing's the same thing. I can make a liquid soap base that can be turned into laundry liquid, soap, shampoo, conditioner, all sorts of things, or I can make solid shampoo bars and soap bars and things like that. Different ingredients, but similar processes, and have just like a box of ingredients, and those ingredients make all these things. And that is where I want to end up. I want to be able to have the single items and be able to go, hey, I need this. That's all right. I've got all the ingredients. I can make it. So I want to try and do that more. I've gotten pretty good at it with food. I want to try and do that more with our household stuff as well. So we do citrus vinegars and we have spray bottles and all the rest of it, but soap, shampoo, conditioner, laundry detergent, I'm still buying that at the moment predominantly, and I'd like to stop doing that if I can. I would like to post more often on Instagram and Facebook. I get messages quite often saying, is everything okay, because I'll miss a few days because I just forget, especially when I'm filming for YouTube, because I'm filming for YouTube and then it seems like redundant to take a photo of what I'm already filming. I know that seems silly, but I should be sharing more of what I'm doing as I'm doing it on Instagram and Facebook, and then putting the videos out as well. Maybe I would feel less pressure to get the videos out then too, because I'd already shared some of it and shown what we had going on. But also, business-wise, algorithms work better the more consistent you are. So the more consistently I post on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and have engagement on there, the better it is for the business. And that leads to, I'd like to keep building the business. It's not the be-all end-all. The money I make from YouTube and from sponsorships and things like that it's less about the money and more about the community, but the money is definitely a factor. Like, how can it not be? I spend an awful lot of time doing all of this, and therefore the money has to be a factor. And I would really like to get the income going to a point where I am less reliant on other things. We receive some government monies because we're a large family, low income, and it would be really nice to reduce those government monies because we're earning more ourselves. Then we don't have to report to government what we're earning and get things docked and all the rest of it, and the way it works, which is, it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I'm extraordinarily grateful that in Australia we have the ability to access government funds for families and things like that, but it would be really nice to rely less on that and know that income we're bringing in is working for me, if that makes sense. One of the other things was to be better at minimizing. So I am trying really hard, as I just said, with food. We've done really well. Single ingredients, really reduced shopping lists, make things from single ingredients. I'm trying to get that way with the personal products as well. The other thing is clothing and stuff. Now, I can sew, and I have tubs full of fabric, and I used to sew all the kids' clothes. I might put some pictures in here of the kids' clothes that I used to sew. Can't do it at the moment. There's no way to set up my sewing machines. Part of that is needing to expand space. But the purchasing of clothes too, trying to, I think they call them capsule wardrobes, but that's not what I'm after. More just making sure at winter time to put the winter stuff away so that only the summer stuff's out, and then in winter packing the summer stuff away so that we've got less just lying around, just minimizing the stuff that's available. There is 8 of us. There's always going to be a lot of clothing, a lot of underwear, a lot of socks, but minimizing stuff in general to the stuff that we actually use. Not about reducing, not by being a minimalist and not by reducing what we have, more just minimizing to what we use. Like, why have all this stuff and then not use it? It's silly to have stuff everywhere and you're not using it. So getting better at minimizing and things like that is another thing. We're also working on chores and weekly tasks and things like that, and trying to set up a system for it. So the kids all have chores, they know what they got to do, and then we have these weekly tasks. Like Sundays we strip beds and wash linen and things like that, but we're not very good at sticking to it. So I'd really like to figure out a system that works for us to stick to it better. Chore charts and weekly planner, like a whiteboard or something, things like that. The schoolwork is another thing. The kids do schoolwork every day, but they I'm trying to schedule it a little bit better. I've spent the last week collating stuff for a few weeks so that I'm not left on the day, like each day, scrambling to find them something to do within the scope of what their current curriculum is. So I'm trying to set things up in advance and work on things like that, but it's just time consuming. I'd also really like to help the kids find their passions. So I'd really like to give them enough resources. We do a lot of child-led learning, but give them enough resources to figure out what it is that they want to do that isn't playing computer games, because that is their choice most of the time. So find their passions in other avenues. I have no problem with them playing computer games. There is many things to learn playing computer games, but I'd really like them to find alternate things as well that they enjoy doing, and that's something that I'm actively working on, by providing different subject matter in their curriculum and things like that, but also having the discussion with them on a regular basis about what they'd like to learn and what they're enjoying learning and things like that. It's kind of an ongoing process, and it's hard because they're still young. So for anyone new, the kids are 7, 8, 9, 11 and 15. So still young anyway, but we're getting there. And I'd like to finish my study as well. I have a herbalism course from Herbal Academy that I have started that I just never seem to find the time to finish. So I'd like to finish that and potentially do some more learning as well, because I enjoy learning. I've started a bunch of different uni courses but never found exactly what's working for me. So I decided to walk away from the uni courses and start doing short courses, because I don't need a degree. I just want to learn for the sake of learning. So I've got the herbalism course that I'm trying to get done as well. I use reading as a bit of an escape. People ask me what I do for me. Reading is one of the big things. So I just looked up my lists, and I've read 240 odd books on Kindle Unlimited last year. And Kindle Unlimited isn't the only place that I read, but I highly recommend it for anyone who reads lots of books. And they're fluff. They're sci-fi, fantasy, vampire, werewolf, all that sort of stuff. They're just complete and utter fluff, other than like I obviously have some non-fiction books that I read as well, herbalism and soap making and self-sufficiency and things like, and gardening and permaculture and stuff like that. But the majority of stuff for Kindle Unlimited is just fluff, and that's fine. But I'm trying to track my books a little bit better this year as well, see what I'm reading, when I'm reading, and how much, and when new things come out as well, because I lose track a little bit. So that was another sort of a personal goal. The only other thing really is to get to a point where I can outsource some of my typing. So I do typing, transcription typing, and it's very time consuming. And I actually have a friend who was helping me out with the typing at one point when I was doing a lot of it, and then I would do all the admin and the edit, check it all over and uploading and everything else. But because I need the money for doing it, I've had to do it. I've been doing it lately, and it is very time consuming, and it's taking time away from other things. So I really want to, I don't think I mentioned yet, the website for another business goal for this year is the website. I need to get the website going, and that is for my benefit as well as all you guys. I really want it up for you. I really want to have the recipes up there so that you can go on and click and search and find the recipe and not have to wade through the videos to find it. But also for myself, I regularly wade through my videos to go and find recipes, because I've got notes written down, but I don't necessarily have the changes that I made, because I made them on the fly while I was filming. So the website is another big thing, and it has the potential to be further income. If it has enough traffic, then it has the potential to be income as well. And as I said, part and parcel of this journey has to be the income. It's just the way it is, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. The community is massive. The conversations I have with people in the comments is amazing, and I absolutely love it. And the feedback and learning that I get from other people, but in the end, income is part and parcel of it. So streamlining processes and making the ability to earn the income more effectively is great, but I only want to do it in ways that I would already be doing it, if that makes sense. It's like my filming. I don't purposefully film stuff. Like I don't do something purposely to film it. I film what I'm already doing, and then I find a way to make it into a video that people will want to watch. So the business side of it is something similar. So like the website and things like that, I want to do it because it would benefit me, but it would also benefit you guys as well. Not because it's just a standalone spur of the moment thing. And I think that's why I've never done it before. Like I had it started for years, and I've just never got around to doing it because I didn't find a purpose for it, and now there's a purpose for it. So that's what I'm going to try and get done. That's one of the big business goals, and I'd really like to do it in like the next 3 months. Might be pushing it, but I'm going to give it a go. So anyway, that was my sort of squirrel ramble, and everyone seems to really enjoy my squirrels and rambles. So hopefully the people who enjoy this sort of stuff will enjoy this video, and anyone who's not interested feel free to scroll past. That's sort of it. I think that's covering what I listed in my book. It's covering the goals, the aims, the I don't know. It's Homestead goals doesn't sound quite right to me for the way I do things. It's more Homestead appreciation and thoughts and processes and note taking and plans for what could happen, but it's not necessarily what's going to happen. And that's a bit the thing. I can't put too much pressure on myself to get these things done, because when they don't happen, then I get really frustrated. And if I really want them done and I can't make it work, then I get frustrated, and then I get overwhelmed, and then nothing goes right. So whilst all this stuff is stuff that I'd really like to see happen this year, I'm not putting the pressure on myself for it to have to happen. There's certain things that we really definitely need to get done, but a lot of it is more going to be, it would be really nice if it happened, but if it doesn't, then we've got another year. So back to the whole progress, not perfection. So, and on a side note on that, I have a mug press that I bought to use for the kids, because I have a silhouette cameo that I do vinyl cutouts and stuff, so heat transfer vinyl for the kids' shirts, and I did their names on their stockings and things like that. And I bought a mug press to do some mugs for them, because I can cut out the sublimation ink on my silhouette as well, and the kids needed new mugs for hot chocolate. So I've got mug press and mugs and stuff that I'm going to do, and I think I might do a bunch of those progress not perfection ones, and maybe some with the rainbow picture and things like that. So if anyone decides that they want some of those at some point, I'll maybe list some of them for sale as well, because I just really like the idea of it, and it was worth the little bit of money to buy it, just to get the kids personalized mugs too. So because personalized mugs aren't that easy to find when you need 6 different ones. So, but thank you everyone for watching again today, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments, and I will have to go a little bit more in depth about a few things in single videos. I get a lot of questions about the solar and a lot of questions about the water, so I'll have to do a bit more in-depth type stuff for that as well for you guys. I just sort of frosted over it for this, but definitely as we progress through improving those things as well, then I can share what we're doing to improve them, because a lot of the stuff that we've done is just been, we've got to get it to work. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to work. And again, with that whole progress not perfection sort of a statement. So anyway, thanks for joining me again today guys, and I will see you again next time.